So, can we walk you through your career as a minister? How many different churches did you have?
Yeah. In the Presbyterian Church, you may be familiar that a minister, through a procedure within the church, can initiate the availability of his presence. So a church who's looking at a pastor can say, let's look at this guy. Or a committee from a church without a minister is looking for someone, and they may go. So in some church, I never had to initiate mine for that, but there were enough changes there. Oh yes, I did in one. All the kids were of school age, and they needed school age friends. You know, if you're in there with all adults and everything, and your kids have no people around. But anyway, that was when we went to
Florida?
with the Yoders and all the
Beaver Creek.
all the this was the presbytery takes the responsibility for both organizing new churches within its bounds and overseeing the pastors there. So they were, not everybody's interested in calling door to door, you know, and gathering the first few, and they come to your home and you have a little service and prayer, then they add to that, and pretty soon you got enough, which we did, and I would call. Sometimes they listen to your whole pitch, and sometimes they close the screen, go into and everything. But we started meeting in the schoolhouse. And two things, the men were capable. They made all the church furniture that could fold up and be stored away in school during the week. And but the drawback is that either the gym would smell like spaghetti from a PTA fundraising dinner the night before, or it smelled like sweaty sweat socks when all the kids running around, you know, exercising. So it wasn't all that neat. So we were in a hurry, and we put up our new, our first unit on the property that was right there. It was fun.
So you did church planting as well as...
That's right.
Wow.
Yeah. Well,
So which church did you serve first?
first, yes. What that was right after World War II. Came home, had to initiate the whole thing, but midway in that, hardly got started, and some lady called and said, "Well, my sister's down in Carthage, Missouri, and they're without a minister." That man went into the chaplaincy, and he decided to stay in. He wasn't coming back. So anyway, my name got to them. They invited me down. And I liked it, and they thought we would get good start, so they did. I think I made $2,100 the first year. And it was a good thing for me. You have to start, and okay, you build, and the first thing you build is to convince the people that you're sincerely interested in them, both their needs and what they hope to find for their kids in a church environment, you know. And so I worked on that, and we had a big youth group. And one time, as a follow-up to that, we were at a park down toward Arkansas on an outing. And we were playing, forget what the games were and everything, running and having a great time. And a car stopped over on the road, maybe 50 yards away from where we were. And the chauffeur got out, and he walked over, and he said, "Sir, my boss would like you to come over. He wants to have a word with you." And I went over, and it was the president of Ralston Purina Company, and he said, "You know, some of us have banded together, and we have a Christian camp up in Michigan, Stony Creek, and it's American Youth Foundation organization, and I saw what fun you were having there with these kids, and I thought you might enjoy working with us. He said, here's my card. I'm going to tell our people that we may hear from you, and you're to be assigned to a couple of tents there, and they'll see that you have all the information you need. Well, we did that. I went back year after year. And who did I meet? Some of the great people of the world were there. Christian men in those days took time for things like that. And Barney Blakemore from one of the major networks would come and give his time. Dr. Brown, president of Denison University, he would give his time there. And we had great vespers and great study times and all. And it's just things like that that gave me a chance to grow and work personally with people. And it just seemed that the opportunity was always presented in some way, either by a chauffeur that liked the event or not.
Well, some of the, how many years were you an active minister?
Probably 65. We moved to California to retire and look after Jody's mother, who lived to be 96. And we had fun, though. We'd get the wheelchair and I'd put it in the trunk and get her and take her out. I'd do wheelies with her, and everything. But we just had a great time. And
You were still an active minister then,
yeah.
right?
So I was asked out there if I'd help out. And I said, I don't think so. Because if you don't travel when you're retired, when are you going to travel? And they said, would you work with us just when you're here then? I said, that sounds like a deal I can't turn down. And so I did that for 23 years. I served on the staff under a minister there. I would do calling mainly. And that was what I appreciated. They had enough guys preaching, although I had a regular preaching time within the schedule, but the calls were in nursing homes and other things where I thought gave me a reason for still being a minister. Yeah. You can't hide out if you love the work, Yeah.
So what was your favorite sermon?
My favorite
Sermon?
sermon? Oh. It started by my going to New York while being a student at Princeton Seminary. We went there periodically to hear some of the great ministers. George Buttrick, for one, from Madison Avenue Presbyterian Church. George was a great one on prayer. And I never preached on it until the last 2 years of my life, especially. But I thought, somehow his name came back to me, and I thought, that's the guy that inspired me so with the knowledge of prayer. And so I wrote this sermon on prayer and gave it the emphasis that this is God's connection with us when we're at our best and when we're at our worst, when we feel most joyous of all, when we feel most neglected of all. And those are the people that are in the pews to some degree, always. And I better preach this sermon while I'm preaching it. So I think that would be that's,
So, what has your favorite book of the Bible been to teach?
he's, oh, that would be the Book of John. And the reason for that would be his emphasis on the last years of Jesus' life, whereas the others would, two of them begin with his birth, on up. But John was there when decisions have to be nailed down, when your hopes now have to really cling to something, and he answers, and you just feel you've heard the words of Jesus always for the first time, because they're so poignant, on in my Father's house are many mansions. If that were not so, I would have told you. I go there to prepare a place for you, and if I go and prepare a place for you, I'll come again, and I'll receive you unto myself. And I thought, boy, that's a hope. Yeah.
I guess we can ask, now the father-daughter team here, what kind of influence did you have on the decision for Jamie to enroll as a member of the first women's class
Did you feel
here?
any force yet?
I felt your encouragement, but no, I didn't feel like you pushed me at all. You told me it was an opportunity. Yeah, and that was wonderful, because I like my dad was very unsure and had not done a lot of pre-planning, as he had said, like to go into seminary and so on. So I wasn't really sure.
Yeah.
And when my dad told me about the changes at Westminster and the opportunity, it just seemed like something I couldn't pass up, that I really wanted to do. And then to be able to go where my dad had gone was a double bonus. So, yeah.
And those were rough years for women. Maybe you've read a little bit. Bill Parrish writes them up with a little thing. And the girls here are talking about it. They're laughing about it now.
Uh-huh.
But it was rough. It was rough. No,
They weren't all laughing about it then. I can remember that
that's
with
right.
some clarity.
They were not. It's right. They were not welcomed by student bodies generally, the men.
But Lewis actually was in the same class I was.
Uh-huh.
And so he and a lot of the other folks that Lewis was with actually did support us quite a bit. They challenged us, but they supported us.
They lived
So,
upstairs, we lived downstairs.
That's right, in the same dorm.
Oh.
That's right.
Uh-huh.
That's right.
I'll be darned.
We were raised up right.
Yeah.
And I think you had mentioned previously you had been a member of the Board of Trustees here for, I believe, 12 years. Was that your recollection? What?
Board of Trustees.
Oh, yes. Uh-huh.
Okay.
And that was through a man in St. Louis. I was at a church there, and he was his field was insurance. He was very successful. He was on the Board of Trustees. And I had Bullitt's funeral, and he had come to that. And so this is the first time he noticed me, and he knew that I have retired, so I would have time, perhaps. And so he proposed my name to the Board of Trustees, and they elected me for that.
Again, your definition of retired is a little different from the traditional definition of retired. So
That's right. And for that. And that was wonderful. Bob Elder was on the board ahead of me, and he was just great, and just a wonderful men. I still could look up to a group of men. I just think my life, whenever I felt alone or wanted to do, somebody appears, or a group that challenged me again, and I make a fresh start doing something somewhere. Well, that was just great, and I appreciated the presidents then, and as I do today, for that.
Well, I had a great aunt who lived to be 107, and I asked her one time, I said, what is your secret to longevity and keeping your mind sharp? And she said, it's very simple. Every day before I go to bed, I learn at least one new fact. Every single day. And a lot of the facts, she read the Bible every day, so she knew more about it than,
Yes.
not you, but a lot
Yes.
of other folks who
Yes.
were ministers. What has been your secret to longevity?
Well, if I were going to be flip, I'd say breathing. but, but I don't know. I do know that your genes play a part in it, and your general health, and also your outlook on life. Whether you've avoided too much of the heavy burdens that were unnecessary, instead of seeing them as challenges and opportunities for something new. For that, I just always was ready for something new. Didn't always come, but enough come that I felt somebody thinks I can do something and they want me to try.
And how did your Westminster experiences affect your abilities later on in life?
For what?
How did the Westminster experience, as far as
Yes.
the academic preparedness, but also you mentioned a few other challenges, how did those play into the rest of your life?
Yes. Danny Gage kept my interest in philosophy and outlook. And when you're young, you think of the things that make you feel good that you remember. And he GGG boy, he would say, GGG boy, you missed that by a mile, and yeah, and everything. If he would do this, but there were only 7 in his class my year, and so you had to recite every day. You couldn't pass it. They were there. So I learned to study, as I learned in that job at Ely Walker. Consider profit as being at the heart of retail trade. How can you give quality service and still make a profit, and everybody's happy, and the system works? And so I felt if I make the most of what I've got, even if it wasn't anywhere near the impressive of some others, that's all right. But just don't stop giving.
Thank you. Jamie, is there anything we have not covered that, or Jack, that we need to cover?
I think you did a great job. I've enjoyed every minute of it. I learned some things that I didn't know. Absolutely. Yeah.
Can you place a value on what you learned as far as being able? Okay.
Priceless.
Priceless. Okay. All right. Well, Jack, was there anything you wanted to add that we haven't talked about yet?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right. Well, we appreciate your letting us borrow you, and we know it's the 75th. We have all sorts of festivities planned, and you're at the center of that, and we're glad that you were able to come down here, and thank you for your service to your country and to the Westminster and to your God. And
Louis, it's been a pleasure to meet, to see you again, and to hear. I just am thrilled at your ability to synthesize things and to undercover and to make a person feel comfortable in a public situation.
well, thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. All right.
Yeah. All right. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Pleasure to
Appreciate
be
it.
with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.